Hi there! I'm so happy to see you today. I'm Miss Heather, and I'm part of your church family. Right now, I'm at home, just like you're at home. What have you been doing while you're at home? I would love to hear more about that. I have been spending some time outside, gardening, going for walks, and I've been drawing a few pictures in my driveway. Do you ever draw pictures with chalk in your driveway or on your sidewalks? I've also watched a couple movies, Frozen 2 and Onward. Have you seen either of those movies? What did you think of them? I thought that they were pretty good. Even though I've been busy doing all of these things, I've still been a little bit sad. I've missed my friends and my family, and especially my church family. Do you miss anybody that you can't see right now? I thought since I couldn't see my church family in person right now, that I might reach out to a couple of them. And you know what? They are so super excited to talk to you. So, we have a few things planned for you and a few surprises. So just sit right where you're at. We might have some songs, maybe some crafts, and maybe even a story or two. I'm not going to tell you quite yet who those super secret people are, but you will see soon enough. So sit right there.
Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Olivia from the toddler class at Naperville Church. I sure miss seeing your faces. I'm sending you this message from my house, but I can't wait until we can see each other again soon. I wanted to share a quick story with you today, one of my very favorites. It's from my Rhyme Bible storybook, and it's a story that's taken from the Bible from Mark chapter 10. This is called The Children Come to Jesus. Some boys and girls went out to play, but then they saw Jesus coming their way. "Let's go see him," the children said, and all the mothers nodded their heads. But Jesus' disciples said with a frown, "Just look at the children in this town. We can't allow those girls and boys. They'll make entirely too much noise." So when the children came and said, "We'd like to see Jesus," they shook their heads. "Can't you see? He's busy teaching. Don't interrupt Jesus while he's preaching." The children sadly turned away, but Jesus called for them to stay. He scolded the men, "Now let them be. I want the children to come to me." And the children crowded all around and sat beside him on the ground. They laughed and had a lot of fun, and Jesus blessed them one by one. You are so important to Jesus, and I can't wait until we're back together again and we can share more stories about Jesus.
Hi guys, it's Mr. Duff. I haven't gotten to see you guys in a long time, and I miss you, and I wanted to find a way to get to sort of see you, at least through, the phone there, through the camera. Hopefully you can get to see it somewhere, maybe on a device or a computer or something like that. But at least that way we get to see each other a little bit. So I have a couple songs. I thought we'd do a couple songs just for fun. And I hope that I get to see you in person really, really, really soon. Okay? All right, let's start. You guys got to do the echoes back and forth with me, okay? All right? You guys know the part that I'm talking about, but you got to do it right, not the way you sometimes do it in class, okay? All right, here we go. Here we go. You ready? Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one God. Hallelujah. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one God. Hallelujah. And you will love the Lord your God with all your heart, and all your mind, and give him glory, King of glory, and in his ways delight. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one God. Hallelujah. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one God. Hallelujah. Oh, I caught one of you. One of you did it. I knew you would. I knew you would. We'll try again next time. All right. Let's see what else we can do. Oh, you know what? What we have to do? Especially since we haven't gotten to sing this together very much. You need your caterpillars. Okay? Can you get your caterpillars? All right. You ready? Here we go. Fuzzy caterpillar climbing up a tree. It wiggled long, it wiggled short, it wiggled right at me. I put him in a box. Don't you move, I said. But when I opened up the box, it was a fly instead. Now I could never make one, even if I tried. For only God in heaven can make a butterfly. My First Story of Easter by Tim Dowley, illustrated by Roger Langton. Jesus of Nazareth was the friend of many. He told great stories. He healed sick people and did wonderful miracles. There was an important festival in Jerusalem. Jesus went with 12 special friends, his disciples. Jesus borrowed a donkey and rode into Jerusalem. The crowds became very excited. They shouted and waved palm tree branches. But some of the priests hated Jesus and plotted to kill him. One day, on the day of the festival, Jesus ate a special supper with his disciples in an upstairs room. Jesus broke bread and gave it to his disciples. But one disciple, Judas, was plotting against him. He crept out. After supper, Jesus took his disciples to a garden outside the city. "Stay here and pray," he told them. Jesus prayed too. Then a crowd of Jesus' enemies appeared, led by Judas. The soldiers took Jesus away. They stood Jesus before the Roman ruler, Pilate. "Jesus is a troublemaker," said the priests. "He should be killed." "I can find nothing wrong with him," said Pilate. But the people shouted, "Kill him! Kill him!" So Pilate sent Jesus to die. Cruel men pushed a crown made of thorns on Jesus' head. Then they led him out of the city. When they reached a hill, soldiers nailed Jesus to a wooden cross. They also fixed 2 robbers on crosses.
Jesus said, "Father, forgive them." One robber asked, "Jesus, remember me." Jesus said, "Today you will be with me in heaven." At midday, the sky went dark. Jesus cried out and died. Jesus' family and friends watched sadly. A good man called Joseph took Jesus' body. He put it in a rock tomb and rolled a huge stone across the door. Early on Sunday morning, women went to the tomb. The stone was rolled away, but they couldn't see Jesus' body. Suddenly, two shining men stood there. "Jesus isn't here," said one. "He is risen from the dead." The women rushed back to tell the disciples. At first, they did not believe the women. But then Jesus appeared to them. And after this, Jesus appeared to many of his friends. Once, Jesus cooked breakfast for his disciples beside a lake. A few weeks later, Jesus was taken up into heaven again. The disciples watched. At Easter, we remember that Jesus died and that he is alive forever. The end.
Thank you, Mr. Duff, for reading us the story of Easter. So I came up with a couple ideas that you might want to do with your family, a couple crafts, and these involve making something for someone that you love that you could send to them. So here you go. Brody's going to be my student and help me demonstrate how to make this craft. So what you will need is a marker or a pencil, a pair of scissors, some glue, and you need some sort of ribbon or string and paper. And I happen to have these pieces of felt that I might use today because I happen to have them, but you could just use regular construction paper. So the first thing I'm going to do is get Brody over here by the table so that I can trace his hand. And so if you're at home using paper, you can just put your hand on the paper and have your parents or someone help you trace your hand on this paper. So we have an outline of Brody's hand. Beautiful. And so, but for mine, I'm going to be using a piece of fabric. So I'm going to let Brody pick out which kind of felt he wants to use for this. What do you think? Red? Mm-hmm. Okay. So he's going to go with red. So we are going to trace his handprints on this red fabric, but if you have paper, you can do it on paper as well, whichever. So I'm going to go ahead and use a Sharpie because that works well on the fabric. I'm going to scoot this over. Just make sure we have room for his other hand. Okay, there you go. So now you should have your hands cut out, and I've got Brody's hands cut out, and we cut ours out of felt, but you can use paper or any other type of scrap fabric you have at home. So now for the next part, we need either some string or some ribbon. And I happen to have some ribbon with Easter eggs on it. But what I need Brody to do is to hold his arms straight out. And if you're at home, you need to hold your arms straight out and then have someone measure the string for you, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go from this fingertip over here and have Brody hold that, and then go all the way to his other fingertip, which this piece of ribbon is actually the exact size we need. But normally I would have to cut it. But this is almost exactly Brody's arm span. So what we will do is, now that we have our ribbon cut out, we will kind of lay each end on the table here. And then we're gonna put one hand on one end and the other hand on the other end. And I'm going to use some tacky glue because it's my favorite type of glue, and it doesn't really soak into the fabric like some other kinds of glue. But if you're using paper hands, you can use tape, or you can use Elmer's glue or whatever you have at home. Or you could probably even staple it if you wanted to staple your hands to your ribbon or string. So I'm just going to stick that into the glue, and then come over here, get my other hand, put some glue, and then glue this side over here. And now we're just going to sit here and wait for that to dry. So now our hands are dry, and we have, what this is a giant hug. So this would be a hug from Brody. So if Brody wants to send a hug to his Grammy and Gramps, he could mail this in a package, and then when they open it up and get it, they can have a hug from Brody. So it would just wrap around whoever you send it to, and it's like you're wrapping your arms around the person that you want to send it. And this is going to be our second option for making a giant hug to send to our loved ones. And what you will need for this one is a big piece of paper. But if you don't happen to have a big giant roll of paper like I do, you can always use some leftover wrapping paper and just use the back side of it. It's solid white. So for this one, we're gonna have Brody, my student here, lay back, and you'll probably need someone to help you with this one. And he's gonna stretch his arms out, and then you'll need a pen or a marker or a crayon or something to trace with. So you will lay down on that paper and then have your mom or your dad or your brother or sister trace. Okay, Brody, sit up. So now we have this nice outline of Brody of a giant hug. And next we're going to cut it out. Now we have Brody's hug all cut out, and he is going to use some markers to draw his face and his hair and his clothes. So go ahead, Brody, start drawing. Really good. Good job, Brody. Okay, so Brody's not quite done decorating his hug, but once he does finish coloring it, we can take it and fold it up. And we taped it down to the floor, that way it wouldn't roll up on us like it's doing. You can tape it down on your table or wherever you're going to color. And then we can put it in an envelope and mail it to someone we love.
I'm going to leave you with a couple more things before we go. Let's do our books of the Bible, because that's one you got to keep in your head. You got to practice it a little bit. So we're going to do the Old Testament. Remember how the Old Testament starts? Old Testament starts with the book of Genesis. Goes Genesis, Exodus, and goes all the way to the last book, and the last book, Malachi. That's right. Good job. So we'll do the Old Testament, 39 books in the Old Testament. Then we're going to do the New Testament, and the New Testament starts with the book of Matthew, and it goes all the way, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, goes all the way to 1st and 2nd and 3rd John, Jude, and Revelation. That's right. Good. Revelation all the way at the end. So there's 27 books in the New Testament. You put those together, you remember we got 66 books to remember. That's why we sing the song in the first place, because sometimes singing songs helps keep it all in our brains the right way. So you ready? We'll do the Old Testament first, okay? Here we go. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st Kings, 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. What's next? Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and the last book. That's right, Malachi. Good job. Good job. All right, let's do the New Testament. Here we go. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Acts, and the letter to the Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians and Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus and Philemon, Hebrews, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st and 2nd and 3rd John, Jude, and Revelation. Hey, that's pretty good. I think you guys remembered that pretty well. You know what you guys need to do? This is what we do every time when we do these songs in regular Bible hour. So you got to give yourselves a round of applause. You got to pat yourselves on the back. You got to polish up your halos and give them a kiss. Mwah. So I hope you had fun singing, and if you liked this, you can go back and sing some of the songs again, over and over again. We'll try to see if we can do more songs, maybe a little bit later. But the most important thing is to let you know that we are all thinking about you, and we miss you. And we can't wait till we can all be together and see you again in church together, all in one place, really, really soon. You guys take care. Mwah.